That seems to work, I think. Okay. Live on YouTube. Yes. Okay. So they're all gone. All right. I am going to let people in. Here we go. We're going to wait a moment for everyone to join here. Okay, I think we were here. Welcome everyone to Mentor for College's webinar on college sports, the whole picture. My name is Skip Williamson. I'm your Zoom director and host for this evening. Before we get started, I want to point out a couple of things. One is this session is being recorded and we will have it available on video on the Mentors for College website in a couple of days after we've had a chance to edit it. It's also being live streamed on YouTube, so you can check it out there as well. One other bit of housekeeping before we get started is as the presentation goes along, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button on your screen and type in a question as you think of it, and then we will relay it to our presenters and we will have a time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So why don't we get started? I'd like to introduce our host for this evening, Dr. Jenny Marquardt.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us this evening for our Mentors for College webinar on college sports, the whole picture, academics, talent, and scholarships. We have a guest presenter tonight, Dr. Connie Litzinger, who is a college counselor and coach and former college athlete and parent. And so she is going to be presenting lots of good information. Our goal for this evening is to give you enough information that you know what kind of research you need to do and make a good decision for you personally. And so before we get started with the presentation, I want to talk a little bit about Mentors for College and what Mentors for College is. We are a nonprofit organization and we do one-to-one mentoring for students and parents as they're going through the college planning process. We have rigorously trained volunteer mentors, and all of us focus on helping students get to the right fit for them after high school. And so we meet with students during the high school years to align your courses and your trajectory so that you're prepared well for whatever path you choose after high school. We focus on helping you make a good selection of a combination of group of schools, and then ultimately the best selection for you. We can help with essays and applications and help you understand financial aid and scholarships and all of that. And so if, as you're going through the webinar tonight, you think that this would be something you would like to do, is work with a mentor. It is a free service, and so you can go to the mentorsforcollege.org website and sign up there to be matched with a mentor, and we will get to you as quickly as possible. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Connie Litzinger, who will begin our presentation tonight.
Thanks, everybody. for joining us today. This is a really great topic. When Jenny asked me if I would be willing to put my 2 cents in, I definitely said yes without thinking about it. And then she told me it had to be under 30 minutes. And so we'll try to do our best on that account. Like she said, I've been a college and career counselor at Wentzville Holt High School for 21 years, if last year counts. And so it's one of my passion areas, and sports has always been a big part of my life since the time I was 5 years old, I think. So that's a big passion. And then most recently, I've developed a passion for helping first generation college students get through the process, because it is daunting. It's daunting for the kids that are 16, 17, 18 years old, but it's also daunting for the parents. So those are my 3 areas. And so this taps right into all of that. So I was a high school athlete. I didn't know college was in my future. I was a first generation college bound student before I even knew what a first generation college bound student was. And then I started getting recruited for basketball and track. And then thought my junior year, maybe I would actually go to college, and I better get my academics in alignment with what college rigor is all about. And then I looked at my best friend, who was 6'4", still 6'4", a left-handed center on our basketball team. And I said, man, we got to take harder classes. We got to practice more. And together we kind of worked through that whole process of junior year, getting recruited, being college bound, working on our academics. So we'd be successful in college as an athlete, but as a student primarily. So that's kind of where this is all coming from. So our first slide here, 5 important things that you should focus on in order to be a successful college-bound student athlete. Of course, we want you to focus on academics, and I can't stress that enough. I know parents stress academics more than their high school athletes do. And this is really, really important for parents to keep the focus on the academic part, because there's lots of injuries that happen, there's transfers, there's all sorts of things that happen as a high school athlete and then onto the college level. And we have to focus on the academics part. So that's what we really want you to do. The social fit for a college, there's a big difference between a college that has 1,000 students and one that has 60,000 students like Indiana University. So which college will you graduate from? And if I can tell everybody the same thing, focus on where you're going to graduate from. It is great to be an athlete in high school and in college, but let's get your degree and get you out there in the workforce in your college and career path. The second one, realize the academic fit and the athletic fit might be totally different. In my 20 years at Holt, I've seen a lot of Division I athletes. I've also seen a lot of Division I athletes that weren't Division I academic students and couldn't get into that college, didn't meet the NCAA regulations. And it was very heartbreaking. And sometimes they don't come to that realization until it's senior year and they are denied access to that dream school that they always had dreamed that they were going to, because they didn't meet the academic standards, even if they had the athletic talent. So, throughout this presentation, we'll talk about academic fit versus athletic fit. We're going to introduce the NCAA and NAIA eligibility requirements, and you probably are a little bit familiar with that, but I wanted to go over some key vocabulary words about those things. Athletic scholarships vary tremendously. And so the bottom line is you have to focus on the cost of attendance of those colleges. So in my case, I was a Division II athlete, so I got a couple offers from different places, different amounts. And as I work with 18-year-old students that get a college scholarship offer, they'll come to my office very excited, and I'm excited for them too. And they'll say, I got a $10,000 scholarship. I'm like, yeah, but that college is $50,000 a year to go to. So the bottom line is, what is your out-of-pocket cost? And you have to you have to look at all those factors. Kids are wowed by the amount of money that the college is going to give them. They're never going to see that money. You're not going to see that money as parents. It's all monopoly money. But it's the cost of attendance that you really have to focus on and compare and contrast. And hopefully, if everything goes well academically, the student is eligible, and you can weigh those options out for you. The last bullet on this is being a successful high school athlete does not guarantee success at the college level, either academically or athletically. One of the things that I found out when I was doing my dissertation on this topic was that only about 3% of high school athletes actually literally play a game, a competition in college, all levels. So when you look at that, it's pretty amazing. I was telling my husband earlier at dinner that out of my 450 seniors, I have 15 kids that are on the NCAA registration list. So it's very small. So there's that. We just wanted to give you some screenshots of the NCAA website. Hopefully you've been there or you'll be able to go there. It's eligibilitycenter.org. It is a fantastic website. If you haven't been there, do it. And we've given you those resources in the PowerPoint, but that's the stress of academics. Even NCAA, as great as they are, they stress academics because not only do you want to go to college and play, but you want to graduate, and they want you to graduate, especially for those Division I schools. If they're giving you $35,000 college education, full ride to play football there, they want you to graduate from there. They want you to, to be successful there on the field and off the field. It increases their recruiting ability. And educators really do want kids to succeed. It's not all about the wins and losses. Academic standards, again, this is off the NCAA website, and you can go up to the top where it says, student athletes in general, but Division I, Division II, Division III, and they've got lots and lots of resources on that website. Again, this kind of gives you the idea when you're navigating through the website and you're in the registration process, it will ask you what division you're going to be and stuff. Always shoot for number 1, right? So you can click on that and create an account, depending on what division you think. Maybe you've already had that conversation with your coaches and you've already looked at some colleges and you know that, but a lot of kids starting this process don't know. So always pick Division I. And if you meet their standards, you're going to meet the other standards. All right, this is small to see. I look at it almost every day, so I know it pretty well, but this is on the website and readily available to anybody that wants it. This is what the Division I academic requirements are. They were updated in 2018, and they're going to be like this, from what my sources say, for quite a while. So if you're a freshman parent or a freshman student athlete interested in this topic, these are clear requirements that you should strive for. So basically for Division I athlete, they have to have 16 core classes in high school in those categories. And so you can see the first one in English, you need 4 years of English. Not only do you need to take 4 years of English, but you need to pass 4 years of English. And you can see the math is 3. Most Division I schools are bigger. They have freshman requirements. Typically it's 3 or 4 years. Typically 4 years is what we strive for. In high school math, so you can pass college algebra and statistics when you get to college. It's all about laying that academic foundation. So I'd recommend 4 years of math, of course. Sciences, I can't really see that small, but there's a foreign language you can take. That's a core class. And then the social studies classes too. So altogether, it's 16 core classes. Only core classes count towards the core GPA. So core classes are those categories: English, math, social studies, and science, and then foreign language. Most of our kids take 2 years of foreign language now to get into a Division I bigger school. So you can check your standards on that. So only core classes count towards NCAA requirements, and you have to have a 2.3 core GPA. So that's really important to understand. So I have lots of stories in my head. And when I was thinking about this is a story that I will tell. So I had a Division I athlete, unbelievable athlete. He was a 3-time state champion, great guy. My son actually grew up with him, so I knew him since he was 5 years old. His junior year, he won the state title. And we were very excited about that. And I called him in, let the excitement wear off. And called him in about a month later, talked to his dad on the phone. I said, I'm going to call him in and we need to talk about NCAA requirements, because he told somebody in the newspaper that he was going to Nebraska. And I've looked at his transcript and I don't think he's going to Nebraska. So I talked to the student, and then I talked to the dad, and then we all had a little powwow together and stuff. And he was deficient on his core requirements that he needed. So his senior year, he really did not like me. He had to take 2 maths. I think he had to take 3 science class, social studies classes, I think, and 2 science classes, but to get those core requirements up. And he ended up going to Nebraska. He made eligibility by the skin of his teeth. He was a business major. He liked business. Dad owned a business and he knew he was going to do that. So he took a lot of electives in business, which is great. And he should have done that with his electives, but he skimped on and did the very minimum on the core requirements, and it kind of caught up to him at the end. And he was motivated and his coaches were motivated, and he ended up going to Nebraska, and we were very proud of it, but it was not fun. I would not recommend that route at all. So a 2.3 core GPA is kind of standard. It's not real rigorous. Most college-bound students that would be going to a school like University of Missouri Columbia or one of the bigger Division I schools across the country, they should have at least a 2.3 core GPA. So me personally, college-bound kids, that should not be that big of a requirement, but I did want you to know that those are the core requirements that you need. And in those, of the 16 classes, that they have to be in those categories. If a student takes 18 core classes, they'll pick the best 16. So in my friend's case, I just explained, he had some D's along the way. Well, senior year, he did not get very many D's. So I think he had one extra class. And so we replaced a D with a B. But they'll do that they'll take the top 16, grades. So seniors sometimes meet these requirements and then they want to kind of have fun their senior year or concentrate on their sport more and just kind of slack off. I would always advise to take another round of core classes because it's good for academic rigor, for college success, and it can replace some of those lower grades that kids get typically when they're freshmen and sophomores and don't realize how important academics are. So the next slide is it's core GPA on the core classes. Hopefully you guys understand that. It's also the index score for the ACT. So what an index score is the total of those 4 subcategories, those subtests in the ACT. So you add the math section, you add the English section, the reading section, and the science section. You add those up, and that's your index score, your ACT index score. So for Division I, it's a 75. So it's really important that, everybody talks about ACT score and I got a 12, I got a 17 or whatever, I got a 32, I have a 36 at Holt High School this year. It's pretty exciting, but it's really for NCAA eligibility. It's about the index score and those sub scores totaled up together to have that higher score. So you can see on those sliding scales, the higher the core GPA is, the lower the index score can be. So it's a sliding scale and it's based on your final transcript. So as I'm working with students that are juniors, typically is kind of when they get into this, we look at their sub scores. I have a student taking the ACT in April, and he needs 1 more point somewhere, so he'll take it again. And he's been prepping a little bit more, taking it more serious, and I bet he gets over that. And of course, at the same time, he's working on his core classes, and his core GPA will go up too, hopefully this semester. All right, so that was Division I. This is Division II, kind of same setup. They also require 16 core classes, but the categories are a little bit different, and you can look at that. They're a little bit less. So a division school typically has lighter freshman academic requirements, and so that's reflected in there. But again, if you're a student athlete and you're aware of what the requirements are, you want to shoot for Division I. You never know when you're going to peak in your season and you'll get an offer, and you don't want to not meet the requirements your senior year. So that's the Division II information. The core GPA has to be a 2.2, not much different than Division I. And then the index score is a 70. And you can find that information on the NCAA website. So we have it right there, eligibilitycenter.org. That's on my Frequence, on my desktop for sure. It's $90 to register. Only Division I and II athletes have to register. Typically people register beginning of their junior year. At the end of the junior year, they require a transcript to be sent from your high school to NCAA directly, and then they'll do the core GPA projection. They'll make sure that you meet those standards. After junior year, students have to have at least 10 core classes completed. Back 20 years ago, we had a problem with that, but now almost everybody takes at least those, throughout their junior year. So you have to have 10 at the end of your junior year, which means that someone would have to take 6 core classes, like my friend I was telling you about, his senior year. We do have fee waivers. We can give a fee waiver to anybody that qualifies for an ACT waiver. Typically that's somebody that is eligible for free and reduced lunch through their school district. Right now, everybody in our school district is eligible for free and reduced lunch. because of COVID, because of lots of things like that. So I've given out, well, today I gave out 3 ACT waivers, and I've done maybe 3 or 4 NCAA waivers this year. So, make sure that you're asking for those kind of things, because $90 is a lot. My son Andrew graduated in 2010, and we only had to pay $60, and now it's up to $90. We already talked about that stuff. NCAA is very stringent on what information they want, when they want it, who they want it from. And so for ACT, they want it directly from ACT to NCAA, and you use that code 9999 to send your ACT scores there. So like for my kids at school, they have their ACT scores on their transcripts. I can send their transcripts, but NCAA won't look at those. They think I might tamper with them. So they have to come directly from ACT. And NAIA actually has a code also, so be aware of that. I like this breakdown. It makes me, realize what's going on. So out of NCAA with the 3 divisions, there's 1,200 colleges in the country. There's about 6,000 colleges in the country. So you can see how they're broken down there, 23 sports and 126 student athletes, in the whole country. NCAA gives full scholarships, depending on the sport, and they can also give partial scholarships. No athletic scholarships are given to Division III athletes, but a lot of them will qualify for academics scholarships. So again, academic focus. I have a lot of kids that think that they get athletic scholarships to Division III. They tell their friends that they got an athletic scholarship, but they really didn't. They might be recruited by a Division III school, but they're not allowed to give athletic money, only academic. So that's a breakdown of NCAA. And then we've got a slide for NAIA. So that's the website for that, playnaia.org. The average is about $7,000 that they give to NAIA school for athletics. The requirements are a lot different, a lot easier, maybe I would say. You have to meet 2 out of the 3 of the requirements. It's pretty simple. It's a minimum of a composite score of a 16 ACT. We don't have too many people take the SAT, but a minimum of 860, which is very average. An overall GPA, final GPA of a 2.0 out of a 4.0 scale, again, very average. Or you have to graduate the top half of your graduating class. So just 2 out of those 3 requirements. NAIA schools, let me give you an example of one of those. We send quite a few, we're a big wrestling school. Wrestling is happening this week, state wrestling. Missouri Valley is a NAIA school that gives our kids some scholarship money through a couple different sports, soccer too. So they only have less than 2,000 students, and their cost of attendance normally is about $35,000. So if the average is a $7,000 scholarship, on their website, a couple weeks ago when I was looking for some student, they said the average out of pocket for a Missouri Valley student was $20,000. So to play, they get the scholarship to play there. They meet the requirements and they go there and they still have to pay $20,000. So we call that pay to play, because you do get some scholarship money, and it's a great school. They have a lot of really cool majors, but it's small. And it's not for everybody. And so you kind of have to take in that consideration of, how much it's going to cost to go there and play. And is it that important to play? Could you go to another school, not play, and pay less? And that's where the parent decision is really, really hard. All right, so that's NAIA. Comparing those, I think we talked about most of that. I don't see anything else, but comparing is good. NAIA information, there's their website. Again, theirs is actually really good under the sports. You can look up soccer or hockey or whatever, and it'll tell you the schools and by state and the conference that they're in, contact information. It's a really good website also. And then we talk about National Junior College Athletic Association. There are some schools. I know St. Charles Community College has a softball team that's made nationals before recently, and you can do it at a junior college. Sometimes we see football players go to a junior college. Our coach is really into that, and the kids aren't academically at the level where they need to be successful at a Division I school academically. So they might go to a junior college, work on their academics, get those skills, get a little bit more playing time, and then they can actually be recruited later on. So if you don't get a Division I or II scholarship, that's not the end of the world. There are other options. And for parents to have your kid go to a junior college and pay $7,000 a year to get the academic standards, built back up, and get playing time and get recruited 2 years later, that's not a bad deal. So keep that in mind. This is a great thing we took off of NCAA Clearinghouse about what you should be doing each of the years. It's probably too small for you guys to see. I can't see it. But it all starts, in ninth grade. A lot of our kids have played sports their entire life. They've gone to school their entire life. When they get to high school, it's those kids that get placed on the varsity team ninth grade year that we start looking at. And they need to be aware of the core GPA requirements and those kind of things. But it all kind of starts right in the beginning. And really, depending on your school and, who's on your team at school, your athletic director, your coaches, your counselors, your teachers, who's going to steer your student. But this is a good breakdown of what you should be doing each year. Most kids do register sophomore year, the summer of their sophomore year and junior year. And like I said before, then we send the transcripts after junior year. At our school, we don't automatically send it. We have to have a parent permission to send it at the end of the junior year, and then again at the end of, at graduation time. So just know your school's policy on sending transcripts. It's not an automatic. You have to request that and go through the registrar's office to do that.
Okay, Connie, we've got only about 4 more minutes.
Okay. Well, that's good. So like right now we're doing class registration. So I've met with quite a few kids that are signing up for their like senior level classes and stuff. And the difference between graduating from high school and meeting high school graduation requirements is different than meeting Mizzou standards or Division I school standards and meeting the NCAA core requirements. So there's a lot to talk about. And so I just want to tell you, if you don't know this, kids like to take it easy their senior year. And that's really not the time to take it easy when it comes to athletics and meeting the NCAA standards. So talk to your counselor, especially, every year when you register, but throughout the year, remind them that you're an athlete, that you would like to be an athlete in college, and let them, gear through that process of meeting all those standards, not just graduation requirements, but how to get into a Division I school academically. All right. Talk to your coaches and athletic director. You're going to naturally do this, but what I like to remind kids is the best way to get a college scholarship, athletic scholarship, is to impress your coaches and your athletic director. Your principals and your kids, all that is good, but your coaches are going to be your best advocates when it comes to securing a college scholarship for athletics. And so if you're a slacker, but you have talent, which I've had coaching track for 20 years, I saw it all. But some kids have talent, but they don't work very hard. So when a college coach calls me and asks me about a student, I'm going to tell them the truth, and I'm going to tell them how their work ethic, their leadership, their responsibility, their respect, their love of the game, all those kind of things. And that really matters. So this slide, it talks all about talking points of coaches and athletic directors through this process. And parents do this too, but I really like when the kids advocate for themselves. It's them that are going to be playing the sports. It's going to be them in the classrooms at the college. And so just keep all that in mind. So we talk about casting a wide net, keep the doors open. As a college and career counselor for the last 21 years, I like to think that the kids are going to think of their college major first, and then their athletics second, but that's not always the case. And so I think that's where peers differ than what their parents want them to do. And so, keep all those things in mind that like I said before, it's where they're going to graduate from college and in what major and what happens after college, whether they're a champion of whatever sport or whatever. Hopefully they'll have a degree and they'll be able to go out into the work world, and move out of the parents' house and be productive members in a passion area for them. So keep your doors open, do virtual tours now. It's kind of been crazy, with COVID and everything, but you can still watch games. We watch basketball games every night here. You can Zoom with coaches. They're totally into that. social media is a big platform now. It's still doable. If at all possible, go to the campus, watch the games. When you go to a campus, again, you want to look at the facilities and you want to talk to the coaches and the players, but you also want to meet a professor or your advisor in your content area to really get a good feel for, is that college a good fit for you academically? Okay. Questions to ask when you're on a recruiting trip or on a campus visit. Well, this is my job too, but I get emails every day, lots of emails about, our campus is now opened, or limited hours, or, virtual, presentations like this one, and different things like that. So there's ways to get out there and ask those questions and see those campuses, but nothing beats a regular tour, like on your feet, walking around the campus, meeting and greeting those people that are on that campus that you'd actually live with if you attended there.
Okay. So things to keep in mind as you go forward. You want me to read through them?
Sure.
Okay. If being a college athlete is your goal, keep your options open. As Dr. Litzinger said, college coaches look at your high school transcript as well as your stats and game film. Make sure to always review your out-of-pocket cost of college attendance. Compare and contrast that. Just because you got a big scholarship doesn't mean it's going to pay for all of college. And so Dr. Litzinger said that earlier. Select a college where you'll be happy and successful as a student, even if you can't play your sport. Unfortunately, injuries happen, coaches change, programs get cut, you may change your mind, and so you need to be at a school where you're going to be happy. Just because you always dreamed of being a Division I athlete doesn't mean your skill set will get you there. And it doesn't mean that that's a good college fit for you. And so you have to keep in mind and be open-minded. Understand that you may be recruited by an awesome coach at a college that is not a good fit for you. And so be aware of that. Don't get drawn in to the wrong school just because you like the coach. And you may be offered an amazing athletic scholarship, but it's at a college that is not a good fit for you. And so always, 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 you're picking the college, not the team. There are ways to participate in sports, in the sports you love, without intense time commitment of being a student athlete. And so investigate those as you're doing your college research. What kind of club sports, intramurals, co-ed leagues, etc. Students should always take the lead on communicating with college coaches rather than parents. And typically this starts during junior year. Coaches might reach out earlier than that, but it should always be students who are doing the communication. And lastly, you need to make the final decision, not your family or friends. And so you will potentially get a lot of pressure from people around you, but you have to be the person who is making the final decision. So at this time, I'm going to look in our chat and see, we have a couple of questions. And so Dr. Litzinger, if you could just speak quickly about how does scholarship money vary by sport? And so if you could give maybe a few examples.
That's a 2-hour answer right there, but it is crazy how much different it is. Here's my best example. Well, not a best one, but an example. At Mizzou, football players get pretty much a full ride if they get on their squad. I think it's like 75 scholarships or something like that now, maybe even more. And they get a full ride, everything. It's awesome. Okay. The same is not true for their wrestlers. Their wrestlers, they get 9 scholarships for their wrestling team. There's 14 weight classes, and they split those up. So I was telling Jenny the other day, Andrew, my son, was a state champion wrestler, and he always wanted to go to Mizzou. And he would have loved to play football there, but he wasn't at that stature for that. He was all state, everything was good. Academically, he was solid, wanted to be an engineer, wanted to go to Mizzou, but, was told he basically had to walk on to the football team. And he said, probably not going to do that. That's a big time commitment, and it wasn't a good payoff. wrestling, he was state champion. I mean, he was really, really good. They were recruiting him pretty hard. They were at his tournament. At the end, they offered him a scholarship, and it was $2,000 for the first year, because they had to divide those 9 scholarships up with the guys. And I think there was 13 weight classes at that time. And anyway, and they said, well, you'll work your way up. You'll get $2,000 the first year. If you do well, you'll get a little bit more the next year. And by the time you're a senior, you might get a full ride. And he decided not to do it. It just wasn't worth it. He wanted to be an engineer, and he wanted to graduate in 4 years, and he's doing great. He's 27 years old and making $100,000 a year. So I guess he made the right decision, but that was really hard to give up sports. But that's how it depends on what sport, what division, the coach, how they streamline things. But like in that case with the wrestlers, they're very well known for their wrestling program, but they only had 9. And I don't know. Each school does it, differently according to the regulations they have to follow. So.
And so I think that just to summarize that is a really important question that your coaches in high school and athletic directors in high school and the coaches in college can help you understand. And you need to, it's a very important question to to make sure that you ask.
If you go on
Another
a recruiting
question,
trip,
go ahead.
If you go on a recruiting trip, ask the athletes too, what they got. And how that works. I mean, sometimes they're slam dunk because it's a football scholarship. It means it's full ride, but they vary a lot. And I'm sorry to say this, but coaches sometimes want you there more than they care about your pocketbook, and they're going to tell you things that might not be true in the end. And anyway, you just have to really research that, and that's a valid question for sure.
Okay. Another question that came up, Connie, is what happens to students who are unable to take the ACT or SAT during the pandemic? And my response to that is that there is information on the NCAA website about how they have made adjustments, and that might be different for each school. And so that's part of the research that you, as a student athlete or as somebody who's looking to be a student athlete at the collegiate level, you need to be asking.
And as a college and career counselor that gives the ACT a lot, we've had it available during the pandemic. Even we've given it 7 times since July. So that's not really an excuse anymore, unless you're scared, to have your student be in the ACT testing room. But at Holt, we do 10 kids in a room. Definitely COVID protocols with masks and hand sanitizers and gloves and the whole works and stuff. We're being really careful about it. So I know that some colleges are test optional now to go through this COVID crisis, but I see that might go away because there's NCAA and different things like that still want the ACT very much, and other scholarships too. So
okay.
That might vary from college to college too.
All right. So very quickly, last thing. I thought there was a deadline before senior year to register with NCAA. Is that wrong? And so I thought I heard you say that you should be registering your junior year.
Yeah. They want to see your transcript. They'll evaluate it for the very first time after junior year. So you can register anytime. But by the end of junior year, you should be registered and have your high school transcript sent to NCAA for evaluation.
Okay. Thank you all for hanging with us. I know we went over a little bit, but there's a lot of information. I do want, before we wrap up everything, I do want to say that we have an April webinar and a May webinar coming up. The April webinar will be about selective college admissions, and the May webinar will be about making summer very productive. So making the most of your high school summers. And so, as I said at the beginning, Mentors for College, we offer a lot of free services. You can go to our website. We have one presentation particularly on the website about becoming an athlete in college by Mark Lineweaver. And so look up that presentation. We have all of our previous presentations are recorded and posted on our website. And so please go to our website and look at all of the free resources we have. And if you think that you would benefit from going through the college planning process with a mentor, then go to the website and sign up to request to be matched with a mentor. Thank you again, Dr. Litzinger, for being our guest presenter tonight. And thank you all for joining us.